Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and I'm just going to remove those goblins because they're going to keep making that damn sound in the background. It's going to drive me batty. Anyway, alright, so what are we talking about today? Okay, so, as you guys would have seen on stream, I've been playing Stormbrand of Indecision. Why? Why not Penance Brand? Easy answer to that question, didn't want to play Penance Brand. Not interesting for me to play. Anyway, so we're playing Stormbrand of Indecision. So, what does this one do? Basically, what it does, and you would have seen in the B-roll, it sporadically just moves between enemies every time it does a new activation cast. If there's no enemies pre-existingly around, it'll just focus on the one enemy. And with this one, it does work with Rune Binder, unlike Penance Brand of Dissipation, I think. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure with that one. Anyway, it does work with Rune Binder, which means you can have up to 2 brands on one enemy, which is why in the PoB we have it with a double stat on the skill tree setup. Here we have 2 brands because we applied 2 brands to any one enemy, which dupes our damage, which we get to like 6.6 mil DPS per second. Is it the highest DPS or the absolute tankiest character I have built this league? Absolutely not. Can it do like 600 to 700 depth delve? Yes, it can do a lot of other stuff that my other builds haven't been able to do. I.e. it can do Sanctum, Blight, pretty much everything, T16 maps. As you would have seen in the B-roll, it was able to do Deathless, Uber, Elder. Ubers I didn't throw it at, mainly because I got to switch the flasks out to do that and I'm too lazy. It can do Heist really easily too, but the biggest thing is that it saves your hands having to click 1 bajillion buttons. So basically you just like do a tap and the brands go wild and just like run all around the maps and whatever. And the only buttons you really need to press aside from that is your movement button, which I have Frostblink of Wintry Blast on, and then your Sigil of Power and your Assassin's Mark, and then we put the movement button set to focus. Now, some people will go into the PoB and be like, but focus is not up 100% of the time. I'll show you how you deal with that problem. Really, really simple. You untick focus. Anyway, beyond that, so yeah, basically build feels really good. It feels really good to boss. And the other thing it does really well is it has Thunderstruck in it because I could not use this now because it's amazing. Anyway, it synergizes with brains. So basically what it does is it pushes the enemy away constantly from you and then locks enemies into walls, i.e. map bosses. Just like shunts them into a wall, and because you've got 2 brands locked onto the enemy 24/7, it just keeps them locked away. So when you're in Delve and you're fighting Ganix can never get to you, so you can never die to Ganix, which I found was hilarious and a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a pretty decent build. Now, it's not doing like face peeling levels of damage like other builds are. Is it, what is it really good for at the end of the day? It's just an all-rounder, nice, easy build to play. You could play like map juicing strat and you'll be able to handle that to a degree. You could chuck on some MF gear and it'll pretty much still work pretty reasonably. Now, cost-wise of gear, to make this more powerful, you could have a +2 implicit to AoE because it is an AoE gem. Yep. But I don't have that. I've just got a basic incandescent heart, which I haven't even 20%ed yet. Helm was probably a little more expensive, but still not overtly too much more expensive. Considering the abundance of currency, and you can basically just map and make like 3 div every like, or like 7 div an hour to 20 div an hour or whatever, just from mapping now. It's pretty affordable. Mageblood, I've got a no Mageblood version. I'm not going to feature it in this video, but obviously I've got the gear here. In the POBs down below, there's a no Mageblood version. Go crazy. And I've even switched the gyms out for Penance Brand if you want to play this with Penance Brand as well. Go crazy, because somebody will ask me that. Outside of that, it's just a stock Aegis Aurora, which I'm not even using properly. Relic caches, which are now pretty cheap. My gloves have focus on them. I just really like the focus stat. If you don't like, you don't have to like. You could do something else with this, like damage while flasks are active or something like that. Mageblood, like they're what, 185 div? What is it when I'm in-game and doing something? It's not working. 149 div, is that? No, that'll be the cheap ones. 153 div this league, and it doesn't take that long to accumulate that. If you want to know how to do that, check the link in the description as well. Now the wand. Everybody asked me about how to craft the wand. I'll do a video later today about the wand, because I can craft these like that now. So, piece of cake. Using replica dragon's flight, nice and easy. Some of the comments I saw of previous videos is why can't I meet the attribute requirements. One of the stats I look at really importantly on this is item and gems have 10% reduced attribute requirements, which makes it a lot easier to play this. But anyway, we'll talk about gearing and setup. As you can see, I've got some empty gem sockets. I don't even know what I'm going to do with those yet. I haven't figured that out. This build was just so well equipped. What am I going to do? Other brand builds? Yep, I've already mapped out an Ignite armor brand build, so that's probably going to be the next thing we level up in the next week, and we're just going to do like a new build a week at this stage because it's super easy to fund it all. But anyway, let's get into the video and let's talk about the PoB configs so we can avert any confusion there might be about how this build works. Okay, so configurations in the PoB. Now this is with Mageblood. Obviously I've got a no Mageblood version, which is a little less DPS. Now I'm not accounting for sigils of power as well, because someone will be like, but the sigils of power aren't up all the time. Yeah, it's true. So when you turn them on, you get the 4 stacks and your damage goes up. That's how sigils of power work. But we won't put them on anyway, just for argument's sake. Okay, so bandits, kill all, always kill all. Don't need to keep those bandits alive. Major God, Solar Brine King, mainly for the stun immunity and the freeze immunity, or not stun immunity, but the reduction to the possibility of being stunned. And then reduced effect of chill as well. Then we want Minor God, Soul of Aberrant. The reason why is Burning Ground doesn't affect the build. And for anyone who's played ES-based builds, in particular any of my builds, Burning Ground is highly problematic. The other thing is this deals with Ignite, so we don't need to worry about shocks. We're freeze immune, chill's reduced, and Ignites are more or less not going to affect us to a degree, so we don't need to worry too much around running Storm Shroud or anything like that. Now, we're not running anything where we need to be stationary, so but you can. I was doing it previously if you want to delve deeper. All of these don't really matter because we're running Ralakesh boots. They're always active anyway, so we don't need to worry about that. Focused, as noted at the start, that's built into the gloves. No other stats apply. If you can get Arcane Surge, your damage goes up. If you can get Onslaught, your damage goes up. Do with that what you will. Flash charges are active, have no impact. We're running on Consecrated Ground, mainly because we're running a Bottled Faith as our one unique flask. Convergence applies when we attack a box. When we attack a boss. So we get Convergence. This comes from the Ascendancy. For the Elementalist, which is Heart of Destruction, which increases AoE. Now, I tested this with trying to run Liege of the Primordial. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. Apparently, your EHP goes up, but it doesn't feel like that. By the way, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so, I don't know. You can play around with that. You could run golems, and you could stack, and you probably get to around the same DPS. But up to you what you want to do with that. Now, shocked. Enemies are shocked, and that caps out at 50%. But if you're fighting a boss, it could be 20%, not 230%. So your damage is going to vary based on your result there. And then we have exposed to lightning, because that's built into our gloves. So as you can see on my gloves, the implicit inflict lightning exposure, and then that synergizes with Mastermind and Discord. And then we have Unnerve, again, just built into the gloves in the implicit. See, 15% chance to gain Unnerved. And then basically we have On Consecrated Ground because we have a Bottled Faith, and this is Guardian and Pinnacle damage. Really, really, really basic like setup. This build isn't crazy, and it's not like a showstopper, but it'll just work for you. And that's the good thing about it. It does take a little bit to get it there. But not too much, and then you can just play the whole endgame, farm currency, whatever. This build's really if you're bored of the game and you want something easier on the hands and you want to forget about what you're doing, and you can just run around and watch Netflix and play this build and, do whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the gear next. Okay, gearing, helm. Basically, you just want as much ES as you can, and you want to get resistances. And I've got Life Regeneration, which uses Zealot's Oath on the passive tree to synergize further, which is this one here. Which converts my life regeneration to ES regeneration. So we have like an idle regeneration rate of 371, and it caps out at like 1,000 once we start getting hit and the Aegis Aurora starts popping off. And then the implicit is just mana reservation efficiency. This isn't BIS if you're running a Mageblood, because you're already overcapped. You don't need those reses. This is catered to like if you're running this setup. Really, if you're running like best in slot setup. You're going to run a Essence of Loathing, hit that onto a Hubris Circlet with a 10% of physical damage converted to chaos damage taken implicit. If you can get a fractured one, then that's ideal, and they're really expensive and only drop in Delve now. Funnily enough, this can delve to like 600, so you're good. That would be best in socket, and that'll give you mana reservation efficiency, and it'll also give you a whole bunch of other stats, and then you can focus on damage or damage reduction, which will be an advantage in this build since it's CI. But anyway, then beyond that, we run Replica Dragon's Fang Flight, and we run that for Stormbrand gems, and then we have Charisma as the Anoint. It's just running an Incandescent Heart, 4 blue, 2 red. Aegis Aurora, my favorite shield. My ring is just basically like Energy Shield, Crit Multi were the 2 focuses, and any other resistances that I need, and then just some straight up flat lightning damage. Wand, always get an implicit wand. Now, obviously, profane wands are through the roof, thanks to the Tendies build, but that's okay. You can still get prophecy wands for dirt cheap. So you're just going to get that with a baked-in fracture on it for +1 to lightning spell skill gems. And then the basic process for crafting this wand is alteration until you get a crit multi-roll. In this case, I think I got a T2 roll. Yep. And then basically you want to multi-craft it. And you also want to perfect gem it so you get 30% before you do any crafting on it. So then you want to multi-craft it, which is 2 divine. And then you want to craft on spell damage and cast speed. And then you want to slam it with an Exalt Orb. And hope to God that the RNGesuses above give us a good roll. In this case, they screwed me over. But that's basically how you get this one. Then we run a Vivisect. Now you want the strength and the dexterity rolls. This deals with having to put any of your points in the tree into wasted nodes. As you can see, I don't have any in wasted nodes. And I only have it down here, which is okay because it gives us ignore stuns while casting. And that's not a bad thing to have, even though you'll never ever really need it because you'll be casting from a distance. Then in my gloves, I've got implicits, lightning exposure, unnerve, as well as just a bit of ES, resistances, and focus. Now, if you can get a better roll than this, absolutely would recommend it. This isn't great for stacking up more ES because my ES pool is still just under 4,000. I have a Mageblood in this build, but if you didn't run Mageblood, just a crystal belt with a lot of energy shield and then flat regeneration. And armor if you can get it, or if you need it, strength, however raw. But yeah, then that's basically it. And then boots of Relicash, and any corrupted implicit is going to work. If you can get +1 to maximum power charges, which is really expensive, then that's going to amp your damage up, but you don't really need it. This is a huge damage buff to you and a huge survivability buffer to you as well, considering, and you can sort of stand still, and this just applies. Now, Flask, I've just got Bottled Faith, which I switch between Aureus N for clear speed and maps, and then Bottled Faith when I'm fighting bosses or in Delve. And then I've got a Granite Flask with increased armor, Diamond Flask with increased cast speed. I've got a Quicksilver Flask with elemental resistances. So if you roll a 40% to a 39%, you save 2 div by going to 39% and you still overcap. It's just stupid the way that people min and max by that 1%. And they'll pay absurd amounts for it. And then a Quartz Flask with critical strike chance. Now, if you want to switch this out and go deeper in Delve, you literally just switch out the Diamond, the Quicksilver, and the Quartz for a Sapphire, Topaz, and Ruby Flask, and make sure that you have the stats moderately switched out. You'll drop a tiny bit of crit as in percentage, but you'll still be well over 90%, so that's not going to affect your damage. And this is going to severely increase your damage reduction as well, because the straight up effect is 20% less to lightning, fire, and cold damage. If you're not running a Mageblood, again, your flask setups are just going to be cast when used when charges are full, and you want gain 3 charges, and then you want a Diamond Flask, a Granite Flask, a Basalt Flask, a Quartz Flask, and a Quicksilver Flask, or you can drop the Basalt Flask and just run a Quicksilver Flask and then have whatever mod you want on it, and it should work perfectly for you. And that's in the PoB, the second PoB, that's in the description below. Anyway, let's talk about gem setups. Okay, gem setups. In the helm, I'm running Void Sphere at level 2 or level 1, Molten Shell, Enfeeble, and Custom Damage Taken, and this is just as a defensive measure, basically. In the shield, I've got Frostblink, Wintry Blast, which is arguably the best movement skill in the game now. Inspiration and faster casting. This means I can cast nice and fast, and I don't need to worry about being hindered. In my wand, I have Arctic Armor, and I could fit something else in here, but I haven't done it yet. So if you got any suggestions, let me know. In my Vivisector, I've got Discipline, obviously. In my chest setup, Inspiration, Stormbrand of Indecision. It's about 6.5 div for a level 2120. So if you can only afford a level 20 or level it up as you play, you can play it pretty much from level 12. Then yeah, I have that. But mine's at level 28, and if I had a +2 implicit incandescent heart like on my Tendrils build, this would be at level 30, and I do a lot more damage, like face peeling levels of damage. Then I have Swiftbrand. Empower level 4. Empower level 3 is fine. You should still have pretty good damage. Increased critical damage support and Awaken Lightning Penetration 5 and 20%. Then in my gloves, I've got Zealotry, Tempest Shield, Determination, and Enlighten. Unfortunately, Enlighten level 3s are expensive as hell this league. So yeah, hopefully you've already bought one early on. If not, you're going to have to save. And then we've got in the boots, we've got Assassin's Mark, Sigil of Power, and Inspiration. Now you'll notice I am running Assassin's Mark and I am running Enfeeble. When I go to a boss, I'll generally hit it with Assassin's Mark, and Feeble is more so a defensive tactic to be able to reduce inbound damage because it reduces enemies' output damage to you, which I have found as to be a great way to mitigate dying a lot in builds and has helped me delve a lot deeper. But that's just a trick that I use in builds these days. You don't have to do that. Anyway, let's talk about the skill tree setups next. All right, so there's no discrimination between whether or not you run the Mageblood setup or the non-Mageblood setup. It's up to you. It'll work exactly the same, exact same tree. Now, I have a level 93 tree here, but the one that I've got in the PoB is level 97, just for anyone who wants to push that far. But basically, you come up, you grab Arcanist Dominion, Practical Application. I got Annihilation into this build, Arcane Will, Arcane Focus. We get Mystic Bulwark as well, and the 12% Mana Reservation Efficiency node. Now, bear in mind, we want to come back up through this side here when we go around this, and someone pointed this out to me. We don't need that spell block, but we do need spell damage, and we do need to link these so we get the Mastery as well. So we want to come up and grab the 10% increased spell damage, that'll increase your damage. Then we grab the Instability node here, Deep Thoughts, because we have an Intuitive Leap. Nothing else needs to be taken here. Now, when I leveled this, I took Discipline of the Forbidden and Brand Equity. Then I come back and I usually level up here to High Voltage. And in this case, I actually need to fix this because my damage is not as high as it could be right now. Because we want to take 60% increased critical strike chance against lightning exposed enemies, and we expose enemies constantly. So that would have actually been inhibiting my damage. So in the B-roll, you would have seen reduced damage compared to what I've got here now. And then I run Influence with 8% increased damage per aura on me, down to Energy and Shield Mastery, 100% increased energy shield from Helm, and then also Written in Blood. And we want to take the whole wheel for the Doomcast node, and then crit multi to unique enemies. Don't switch to Chaos Inoculation until you have Aegis Aurora in your build at least. If you don't have over 3000 ES, I don't recommend doing that. Just run a hybrid until you have over 3000 energy shield. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Then come across and grab Unnatural Calm. We grab 2% energy shield per second on this one too. Now we'll talk about class to last. Then we grab Arcane Guarding, Shield Mastery, and 1% increase to crit multi per 10 energy shield on shield. The reason why is because we deal with that in the attack block in the Ascendancy. I'll talk about that shortly. Arcane Potency, don't get Zealot's Oath until you switch to Chaos Inoculation. Otherwise, again, you're going to have a bad time. Then we come down and grab Sovereignty. We want Auras to have 10% increased effect. Now, this is where we get into the fun stuff. So we need a Thread of Hope, a large ring Thread of Hope, and we're going to grab Divine Wrath. We're going to grab Divine Shield, Glancing Blows, Light of Divinity, and Runebinder. Runebinder is going to be the first thing that you're going to need. Now, if you haven't got Runebinder early on, then basically once you level on past here, just push straight to the nodes to get Runebinder as soon as you can. I went through this one here and got Purity of Flesh, then Runebinder, and then just respec those points out later down the track. And we also want Faith and Steel, and we want the 10% of physical damage is taken as Chaos because we're CI, we're immune to Chaos damage, so that means 10% of physical damage we're now immune to. Now, Cluster Jewel setup. So my favorite setup, Overshock, Widespread Destruction, and Thunderstruck, which gives you knockback, which is awesome. That's a knockback effect that you can see in the B-roll. And then I have brand notes here, Grand Design, Holy Conquest. These are dirt cheap. These are less than 20C. And then I just run like crit multi-gems in this one, on jewels in this one. So this was like 5-6 div, but a lesser roll you can get for like 1 div. And then basically Seeker Runes and Holy Conquest, and then a Corrupted Blood Immunity gem, which gives me, again, more crit multi as well. And then that's basically the whole entire build. We don't even have a Watcher's Eye in it. Like, there's so many opportunities where you could add power into this build. But yeah, now, Ascendancy-wise. So obviously, we get Shaper of Storms first, we get Mastermind of Discord second, Heart of Destruction, so we trigger Convergence third, and then we get Bastion of Elements last. This gives us a huge buff, and I really have grown to like this node now. And then in the Primalist Ascendancy, we're going to grab Might of the Bear. Then we want a node with culling, Critical Strikes Cull and Attack Block, +6 to Attack Block specifically. Otherwise, you're going to be 1 block short of capping. And then we grab a Mana Reservation Efficiency node. Now, I have Consecrated Ground. You don't need that. It's something that I can switch out and turn into Crit Multi or something like that. And then I have Mana Reservation Efficiency and Regeneration as well. So I'm dealing with my Mana Reservation Efficiency via stacking it in my tree here, and this works really well in this build because it means I don't have to waste nodes and do anything else with my gear. But I can always improve that further down the track. And definitely, like, you could respec nodes out here and out of here in the PoB, and you could chuck that into another cluster jewel setup, which potentially could increase your damage further. So there's a lot of avenues to go to really amp this build's damage up at the end of the day. Alright, so I hope this build's just a little different for you. Gives you another option of what you could play. I know a lot of people are playing Penance Brand of Dissipation. It's a really good build. It's a really good skill. I just found Stormbrand more interesting, and so I decided to play it. Now, I do have a Armor Brand of Volatility build ready to start leveling. So I'm probably going to build some more currency on this build tonight on stream, and then we'll go from there, and we'll start leveling that for Sunday night, and then we'll make that build for next week. And that's going to be an Ignite dot build, and it's going to be dope. I think it'll get up to, like, short of adjusting gear, probably 12 to 15 million Ignite dot, which is going to be a lot of damage, and it's going to look really cool as well. I'm excited. So anyway, tune in then and catch streams and whatnot. But yeah, until then, don't forget to follow the YouTube. Don't forget to like and sub. And don't forget to follow the Twitch as well. I've been streaming over there a fair bit as of the last couple months. And yeah, I'll see you guys later on, and keep continuing to have fun in the league. Bye.